Before we talk a little any more about Miranda, why don't you just maybe I'll give you a little tour of my living space here. I know I've been shooting videos all over it, and I just want to show you the lengths I go to try to do my best job with this. So just hold on for a second here. If you didn't know, I certainly keep the book nearby. I keep a printout of your Blackboard comments. The computer, and you can see I'm working on a slideshow about this story, trying to do something a little fancier. And I think I look pretty good in these videos because I set up lighting. If you don't set up proper lighting for these things, you get shadows across your face and it creates all sorts of problems. So I set up a pretty sophisticated set. And I usually have a much bigger tripod, but I'm using my mini tripod today. And close the curtains because that was bringing in too much natural light. There's my fireplace, which I was sitting by one day, and some maps. TV over there. By today's standards, pretty small. That's where I grade most of your papers, over in that corner at the end of the table. And that's where I was standing when I did the Billy Collins poem. And don't tell my wife, but there is our lovely kitchen. Pretty good shape. I left the peanut butter out on the counter next to the compost bucket. I'll have to put that away after class. And we're back around. There's the painting that I stood in front of for Emily Stone's favorite poem, Why I Am Not a Painter. It does not say sardines on it. So anyway, that's what my living room, kitchen, and dining room look like. And that's it. We have three bedrooms. This plus 3 bedrooms and 1 bathroom is where Professor Berninger lives and has been teaching for 8 weeks. I've been trying to get outside, but it's been so cold. It hasn't always been easy. So anyway, back to the story. So Miranda is, I love the backstory we get on her back in Michigan. She's in this neighborhood. And this is probably 1990s, I'd say. She's in a typical American neighborhood, and this Indian family, the Dixits, D-I-X-I-T, live there. And of course, the kids make fun of the Dixit kids because they're Indian and darker skin, probably why, and they have Indian accents, and kids are jerks and pick on them for that reason. It's terrible. But, you know, the parents, the Dixits, are like, okay, let's have a birthday party. And they have Miranda and kids over. And on the wall in the Dixits' house is the goddess, the Hindu goddess Kali. And I'm going to put some slides in right here of the Hindu goddess Kali. So she's a little scary. Now, of course, this is scary to Miranda because she's unfamiliar with it. We're scared of what we're unfamiliar with. I'm going to put in some pictures right here of Jesus on the cross. Well, if people weren't, most of us are familiar with that, and we go, oh yeah, Jesus. But if you had never seen Jesus on the cross before, you'd say, what the is this, right? So her seeing Kali scares her because it's foreign to her and exotic to her. And it's important not to do that. You know, don't just because something is different, don't be scared of it. Let your mind grow. And again, Miranda's working toward that. She's working toward that. The Dixit happens to line up with who Dev's wife looks like. Dev says his wife looks like the Indian actress Madhuri Dixit. Now, you know, India has it's a huge country, 1 billion people. And India has a huge film industry called Bollywood. And they make a lot of musicals with huge dance scenes. Look up Bollywood if you like over-the-top musicals. Dev says his wife looks like Madhuri Dixit. Naive Miranda thinks, oh, I wonder if she's related to the Dixits in Michigan. That'd be like if we went over to a Japanese person came over here and met somebody named Smith in New York and had just met somebody named Smith in California and thought, I wonder if they're related. You know, no, it's very unlikely. There are a billion people in India. But Miranda's naive, right? Well, I wonder if they're related. Probably not. I remember when I transferred to UAlbany, I would see people, older people had been to college, and they'd say, oh, do you know my granddaughter? She goes to UAlbany. There's like 14,000 students there. So I probably didn't. Anyway, I digress. So right here, I'm going to put in some pictures of Madhuri Dixit. So you can see there. But, you know, this flashback to the party and her reaction to Callie shows that as a kid, she was, what do you call it, prejudiced, a little racist, fearful of the unknown. Here she is, though, 22, not that old, right? And you don't know how young that is till you're older. She's in a city, Boston. It's a long way from Michigan, right? And she's having an affair with a guy from India. So she went from sort of making fun of them and scared of the Dixit family in Michigan to having sex with a guy from India. So not necessarily a progression in life I recommend, but you see she's growing. We're looking at the process of Miranda growing throughout this story. And she's very, very white. The description of her is kind of odd. Skin as pale as paper, and the contrast with her hair is dark and glossy as an espresso bean. Caused people to describe her as striking, if not pretty. Is that a compliment? I wish I was in class. I'd ask you, especially the ladies, is that a compliment? Oh, she's striking, if not pretty. And then it gets a little weird. She had a narrow, egg-shaped head. I take offense to that. She had a narrow, egg-shaped head that rose to a prominent point. Her features, too, were narrow, with nostrils so slim that they appeared to have been pinched with a clothespin. Now her face glowed rosy, its cheeks smoked below a brow bone, her lip glistened. All right, so that description's interesting. She's literally very, very white. Okay, and so that's, here she is with an Indian person who is imaginally darker skinned. She has this black hair, right? And she's maybe not the most attractive person, although I don't know. That's just such a funny description. I can't figure out what the author's doing with that. But sounds pretty enough. Who am I to say? What was I doing with that? Yes, so she's come to the city, the big city, Boston, and he has successfully picked her up, and he wines and dines her and treats her in a way no man has ever treated her before. And she's sort of like a deer in the headlights. She had sex for the first time at 19, and she's had 3 lovers by the time she takes Dev as her lover. So I don't know what the average is, but that's maybe a smidge below average. Certainly not promiscuous by any stretch of the imagination. I'm sure he's had more than 3 lovers. He's probably had 3 lovers that year, not including his wife. And by lovers, it's just people she had sex with. That doesn't mean she's cheating on anybody. Dev was raised very wealthy. He's very international. Yeah, anti-Indian sentiment back in Michigan. Oh, this is nice. It shamed her now, page 3257, when she thinks back to her anti-Indian family and friends, and the neighborhood didn't like the Dixits. It shamed her now. That's the quote from the story. It shamed her now. That's good. If you're ashamed of thoughts you had and things you did when you were younger, that's good because that means you're growing. And if you were a little judgmental of people of a different race when you were 15 and you're ashamed of that now, that's a good thing, right? If you're still on board with it, that's a bad thing. So there's a long track record here of Miranda growing up. Um, she goes to college. She moves to Boston, pretty far away. She's having an affair with an Indian man, and she's very curious, right? She goes to the video store, the store, and she wants to rent a movie with Madhuri Dixit in it, which is to just sort of see more about the culture. And then she's going to buy some of the snack food that her Indian workmate Lakshmi is eating. And the owner of the store, who's Indian, says, "Very spicy, too spicy for you." And that's kind of funny because it's too spicy for her. Dev's probably a little spicy for her. But maybe someday, right? Maybe someday. And branching out and eating foods from different countries. I would never have done that when I was a Columbia Green student. But, you go out to dinner with people and try this, try that. Try it. Get to know other countries' foods, right? And try to go to other countries. Don't spend your money on stupid stuff like fancy cars and a big house. Save up. Go to Europe. It's fantastic. I should go to more places other than Europe, but when I go places. So then we get to something that you're all very interested in. So I'm going to move on and actually just leave this segment at 10 minutes.